Hello everybody, today we're talking about my best reads of 2024. Hi everybody, my name is Sophie, the Bookish Floor. Welcome back to my channel. I know this video has already been done by everybody and I'm a little late to the party, but I still wanted to talk to you guys about my best reads of 2024, the book that I gave 5 stars to. I started January 2024 with not a 5-star, a book that was a 5-star for a lot of people, but it wasn't for me, which was Shark Heart, and I'm not gonna talk about that one. You can go back to that wrap-up of January 2024, but the one that was a 5-star for me that nobody has talked about ever, I've never seen anybody talk about her, but they have talked about Demon Copperhead, is Barbara Kingsolver. Now, Barbara Kingsolver wrote Demon Copperhead, which is a retelling of David Copperfield. And last year in January, I read Prodigal Summer, and I loved that book. And that book is the story of 3 women who live in a small town, like a small farming town. And it tells the story of these 3 women, different generations, really coming from different backgrounds. One of them is actually a widow who was a scientist. She worked at a university. She worked in like doing research in not farming, but like developing certain things within nature in order for farming to be better. Like, I'm not sure about the scientific part of it, but there's a class that this farmer takes in order for him to obviously grow his crops and all of that, and they end up falling in love and they move in together to like the family farm, and she ends up moving to this small town where his family lives, where it's a farming community. Like, she really makes like this whole life changing. She also has like a diverse background, so they come from very different worlds and very different fields, but they find common ground. However, she ends up being widowed, and she ends up living in this farming community, deciding whether she wants to continue making a life there with her family, with her new family, or if she wants to maybe go back to the life she used to know, but what is that really now? So she's grappling with that. And then we have another person, another woman who is also a woman of science, but more of nature based. And she lives in the woods of this farming community, and she is one with nature, and she's studying how certain predators in nature come and live and how they work in the environment, because they are being hunted. Predators, I mean like fox and animals like that, they're being hunted, they're being extinct. By those animals being extinct in the area, they're obviously harming other, like the ecosystem, because things are not working in the natural order as they should. So she's studying that, and then there comes a hunter, and he's trying to do his job, and they meet and they butt heads, but they also come to an understanding, and is that whole journey with that. And then there's a third woman who is an elderly woman, and she has a very grumpy neighbor who is mad at her because her tree is growing way too big and is going into his yard, and you know, like the typical grumpy neighbor who is fighting over nothing, and she has to deal with that. So there are 3 different women dealing with 3 different scenarios in their life. It's a very quiet, very everyday sort of thing, but also so many life lessons, so many things in those quiet moments that make you think. It's about humanity, it's about womanhood, it's about those quiet moments, about growing and learning and all that. So yeah, I think it's an amazing book. If you get a chance to read it. It's called Prodigal Summer. Then one of my other reads was Woman Eating. This is by Claire Coda, and this book is a literary fiction of a woman who is a vampire. And she recently lost her mother, who was also a vampire. And now she has to fend for herself. And this is also kind of a coming of age story. She has to now figure out how to live on her own, how to feed herself, because they don't eat humans. They drink like pig's blood, and they had like a supplier and all that. And now she has to figure out how to rent her own apartment, how to like, it's basically what do you do when you leave home for like college, or like leave the house for the first time, get your own apartment, and now you have to learn how to feed, clothe, and do all that on your own, but make it a vampirism. And it's also about having parents who control. There's also a trigger warning for parental emotional and psychological abuse. This mother was very controlling, manipulative, narcissistic, obviously, and she didn't let her do a lot of things, and made her feel less than. And now that her mother is still around, but she has dementia, so she's at a facility. So now she has to fend for herself, and is again this coming of age story on how she's gonna do that with this condition that she has. So very interesting. Also, I gave it 5 stars. Then the next book that I read, I think this one I read in February, is Guardian Spells. Now, if those 2 books sounded too heavy for you, the next one is Garden Spells. Now, Garden Spells is a magical book. If you have ever seen Practical Magic, it's pretty much the same thing. We have a small town where everybody thinks that this particular family, they are witches, and they have even like they have like the same thing. They live in a house with family members. The main girl, she has her own business, and then the sister comes back home, and she's kind of a troublemaker, and she the main sister, who always lived in that town, is kind of reconnecting with a love interest from the town. It's very, again, practical magic. Very what's gonna happen is a small town gonna accept them, or they're gonna use their powers, or are they not. There's also like a magical tree in the garden, so it's a lot of fun. There's a second book. I think it's a duology. I haven't read the second one. I just read that first one. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was Garden Spells. And then I read The Return of the King. So I hadn't read, I had started The Return of the King from The Lord of the Rings many times, but I hadn't finished it. So I decided this was the year that I was gonna finish it, and I did that. I was the last one that I needed for my Lord of the Rings books. I have read every single one, including the Silmarillion. If you know, you know. And I just decided this was it. No need for me to talk a lot about it. It's a classic for a reason. I love Lord of the Rings, if you guys know. And yeah, finally was able to check that, and obviously everything that I expected to be. It's great, awesome. Okay, and then I read this book called Purple Hibiscus. And this is by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and she has written other books and that she is very famous for. I think one of them is Americana, and I think a couple of other ones, but this one, I don't know if it's that popular. But yeah, this is the story of a family who lives in Africa, and that particular town has been colonized. So the father has become converted, right, from whatever cultural, spiritual following that they have, and is the way he treats the family, if the way they have become. Also, they're in a political unrest in the country, so there's a lot of turmoil there. It is very interesting. There's so many trigger warnings, so please check if you are planning on reading this, because there's this duality on religion uh and righteousness and being like the head of the household politically. I was gonna say politically correct, but I don't mean that. I mean like on the right side of politics, uh, the right side of progress, religiously righteous, and then all of a sudden, because you're all of that, that means that everybody else is below you, and then you treat everybody else badly because they're below you. Like that's the way it feels with the father, and that's the way he treats the family. He abuses like the mother. He is violent towards the mother. He's violent towards the children, and it's just a horrible way of treating the family. So there's a lot of that in that book, but it's very realistic in the way that a lot of families and dynamics work. So yeah, I think it's an important book, although the setting is not a setting that it is familiar to me, or maybe to a lot of us, because we don't live in that continent and we don't live in that particular country. Well, does that dynamic, it is very familiar to very conservative ways. For example, in Mexico, there's still a very Catholic environment. There's still a very respect your elders and they know better than you, and the parents know more because they're the parents, and the parents are right because they're the parents or they're the elders, and that doesn't really sit right with me. And yeah, there's a lot of right now there's um a lot of breaking of that, breaking with the church, breaking with that particular type of parenting, going more into respectful parenting and all those types of things. So yeah, I think that if you're on that journey, I think this is a book to read. But again, check trigger warnings because it's very it there's a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff, a lot of violent stuff. And then I also read a book, because I do read a lot of nonfiction and I do read a lot of books on education and parenting and all of that, because that is the area where I work at. So I read this book called Raising Confident Black Kids, and it's super interesting also, even if you are not part of a necessarily diverse family, you are still in a diverse community, or hopefully you are in a diverse community, or you want to be in a diverse community. And you obviously, for me, I'm gonna have diverse students or consultations and stuff like that. So it is super important for me to be aware, to be informed, to be knowledgeable, to be educating myself. So yeah, that book was super important. So yeah, definitely. And if you are willing to learn and want to learn how you can help that community and better yourself also, and be aware of what you're doing and what can you do better, I think this is a great book. And then after that, I read Vanity and Vampires. So I've been reading the Manners and Monsters series. This is from Tilly Wallace. This is a series that is based on Pride and Prejudice. So the first one, Manners and Monsters, is based on Pride and Prejudice, and it's pretty much Lizzie and Darcy, but Lizzie is trying to find zombies, and they are hidden in society. Her dad is like a scientist doctor. Her mom has like powerful witchy things. And there is this person who is investigating the case, which is the Darcy. He's not called Darcy in this. Heathcliff. He's not called Heathcliff either. I mean, they take a lot of like the Regency and the Brontes names and all that. But anyways, so they take all of the Regency things and they put it in this fantastical world, and it's a whole series. It's a lot of fun, and every book is like a new like monster thing. So this is Vanity and Vampires. I read that one. Some of them have been 3 stars, 4 stars. Manners and Monsters was 5 stars. Vanity and Vampires was 5 stars too. Every time there's like it's like a murder mystery with the element of fantasy, with the element of romance and Regency. So it's a lot of fun. Then I read book that I really love, which is The City We Became. This is from N.K. Jameson, and I'm wanting to read the second book. So The City We Became is a little difficult to explain. So this is a sci-fi novel where people embody the boroughs of New York City. So New York City is divided into boroughs, which is like small areas or small section. And you have like the Bronx and Queens and Jersey, I think, and Manhattan and stuff like that. So people embody the boroughs in order to defend it from a force that is coming and attacking the city. Now, regular people cannot see this, cannot see the attack, but the people who embody the borough can see it, can use the powers that they're embodying in order to fight it. And I love it because each person is selected for a reason, and each person comes from a diverse background that represents that borough. So I really like that a lot. It's incredibly interesting to see it that way. I could see like the people from Into the Spider-Verse doing this this movie like so awesomely. So if you can think of Into the Spider-Verse as you're reading it, you can picture the whole thing. So I think it was awesome. It really helped me to picture the whole book. So I really liked that. It was a lot of fun. So if you like that kind of thing, like superhero, sci-fi, all that, I think this is a great book for you. Then I read Warriors, Witches, and Women. And this book is a nonfiction which tells you the story of different women from different parts around the world and different timelines. And they tell you their story and how society has manipulated their story in order to make them like the villains or the witches of the story or things like that. But really how they mostly have been wronged by men, by society, how they became victims really, and how they manipulated again their story in order for us to fear them instead of helping them and tell us all this time. So I think it's very interesting. Like I said, it's called Warriors, which is Women, and they tell you the story of everyone from La Llorona to Baba. I always forget her name. But like all the witches that all Cassandra, all these women that you have heard horrible things about, even like queens and different people. So if you are doing research on different women, or if you are a writer, or even anyone, illustrator, anyone who's in the creative field, and you need like a book of women who might inspire like stories or different things, I think that's a great book to have around. The next book that I read is called The Last Cuentista, and The Last Cuentista is the story, it's a sci-fi story also about a world that is about to disappear. So it's an Earth that is about to disappear. A comet is about to crash into Earth and it's gonna destroy it, and scientists have been working in order to find a new place to inhabit. So families are selected in order to go to this new planet, and we have Petra Perez, I believe is her name, who is selected to go. And she goes into the ship she loves telling stories. She is Latino. She remembers her abuelita telling her stories, and she is a natural storyteller. She loves telling stories. But then she wakes up and she realizes that everybody has been assigned something to do. She is not a storyteller. She is something else. And she realizes that this community that they have built in this spaceship pretty much is not what they thought. They were gonna go build, that they have woken up generations in forward, in advance. I don't know how to call it. Many years have passed, and that she can either do what they tell her and comply and live this life that she did not choose, or she can start a revolution, and you can guess what happens. Because I mean, no one's gonna tell a Latina storyteller what to do. So there you go. That was the last Cuentista, and that was an awesome read. I think this is like a middle grade, and it won a bunch of awards. So that was a great book. I also read Learning America. This is also a nonfiction, and this is a story of Luma Mufle. And this is a story about a refugee who went into America, and she was able, I believe, to go into America and get scholarships by playing soccer and succeed in her field. However, she did realize that not everybody has the same opportunity, and she tells the story. This was one of the things that really stuck in my brain. She tells the story of how once people ask for like refugee status, even though they accept them and they get into America, they already step into America like $20,000 in debt or $10,000 in debt, because they have to pay, obviously it makes sense, but they have to pay for like the flights and everything. But these people have nothing. Like, they don't have a place to live, they don't have a job, they don't have anything. But the moment they step into America, they're already in debt, they already owe the government, they're already stepping in with on the red. So how are they gonna prosper and progress? And she decides to create a football team with kids, all refugees, and help them out and become basically sometimes even a parent to them, because sometimes the parents do everything they can to support their kids having 3 jobs. Sometimes the parents just can't, it's too much for them, and they get lost within everything in society, and different things happen. So yeah, it's about how the system is really created for them to fail, not for them to succeed. So they help them out, but really they are counting on them to fail. So yeah, it was a really interesting read. So yeah, if you want to learn more about that, I think that's interesting, Learning America. And the next book that I read, I really loved, is called Most Ardently. And this is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, and the reimagine of Pride and Prejudice, where we have 2 male leads. We have Mr. Darcy, and we have Oliver Bennet, who is a trans male. And this is a story same as Pride and Prejudice. The only difference is that we don't have Elizabeth Bennet, we have Oliver Bennet. And it's a really beautiful story. It is the same thing, obviously, with certain things that have been changed because of the representation. At the end of the book, the author does have a note on the research that she made, notes that she gathered of specific places or things that were going on that she added into the story. And there's this beautiful conversation between Oliver Bennet and Mr. Bennet that made me cry in a public place, which has never happened. So yeah, I really like that book. Definitely 5 stars for me. So if you can, go ahead and read it. Hey everybody, Editing Sophie here. So I'm gonna have to wrap it up here and do a part 2 because this video is too long. So just remember that down there in the description you have all the ways that you can support my channel, and also all the ways that we can meet up on social media. So go ahead and follow me over there. If you're liking the video so far, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe so you can see part 2, although it's coming immediately after this one. So anyways, I hope that you're liking all of these books. Let me know if you have read any of them, or if you are adding any of them to your 2025 TBR. Remember to keep reading and keep blooming, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!